because of menstrual period, Hashem Yitbarach is telling you, to Rabbi Elazar Chisma, is that this is a mandatory law that you must know, because this is the foundation of a house. You want to have shlom bayit, you want to have good kids, you want to have a good future, you want to have eternity, you must follow Taharat Mishpacha. Why? If you have children out of a time where your wife is nida, your children will have serious problems, which means you will have serious problems in your life. This is just the reality of life. Anyone who doesn't want to believe it, look at the kids today. Look at the generation today, a generation of losers. It's not their fault, it's their parents' fault. Every kid, regardless of what place he is in a competition, expects a trophy. 27th place has a trophy. Every little kid's room has a wall of trophies. 27th place, 32nd place, 59th, 101st place. Every kid has a trophy. Last place, trophy. What last place? You're the biggest loser in town. Why are you getting a trophy for being a loser? This is the generation we live in. But this has to do with the parents. The parents were not careful to watch what the Torah says. And they decided to just do as they feel like it. This is the problem. So a person needs to understand that in order for them, their house to at least have a chance of having Kedusha, they must follow Taharat Mishpacha. Which means you have to have approximately 11 to 12 days of separation per month, and an average period, which means that you are, once the wife gets a period, you have to wait. You have to wait until she's clean, or a minimum of 5 days, and then you have to count 7 days. So this means that on the average, you can have 12 months of separation a month. Now this is healthy both physically and spiritually for a couple. Now if you just are intimate with the wife whenever you feel like it, you're creating a lot of problems, not just spiritual problems, but you're also creating problems in a sense that you're going to have too much intimacy. Shlomo HaMelech in Proverbs says, Dvash matzata echol dayeka, ken tizbeena ve'ekiato. Shlomo HaMelech says, you found honey. You found honey. Honey is something sweet. It's delicious. You like honey. I don't personally like honey, but people tell me it's delicious. To them, fine. Everybody has their taste buds. They said, Shlomo HaMelech says, you found honey. It's sweet. It's nice. Taim, right? Eat a little bit. Don't eat too much. You found honey. You found unlimited supply of honey. Eat a little bit. Don't eat too much. Why? You're going to throw up at the end. What we need, Shlomo HaMelech to tell us, if we eat too much of honey, we're going to throw up. If we eat too much of anything, you're going to throw up. He says, no. The honey is good, but it's only good with tact, with a little bit. A little bit at a time. A little bit at a time. Your wife is good. A little bit at a time. Not too much. There's alachot of how often you're allowed to be with your wife. Rambam says, depending on what you do for a living. Depends on what you do. Some people you're allowed to be together, the wife and husband are allowed to be together as often. It's not necessarily a mandatory, but it's a good advice in so many words. He says, if you're Talmid Chacham, once a week. If you travel, once a month. If you have a different type of job, it could be once a day. Depends. During that time that you're allowed. But the point is that he says, depends on what you do, depends on how much energy you need to do what you do, and so on. Everybody has different cheshbon, different accounting of when is allowed, when is not allowed. The point being, you'll see in the last chapter of the Mishnah, everything has to have structure. Even your intimate times with your wife. Why? Because you're not a lion. You're not some type of a beast in the jungle. You're not on Discovery Channel. You're not a zebra. You're a human being that's trying to follow God. Act like one. So in order to know when I'm allowed, when I'm not allowed, the first thing you need to know, when am I even allowed, bichlal, to look at my wife and touch her hand at the same time? Look, you're always allowed to look. But touch her hand, be with her intimate is a different story. When am I allowed? These are very important things to know. Why? Because once I know when I'm allowed, then I have to structure my life accordingly. But this is why it's not a surprise to see some of the Gdolei Hador, some of the big Rabbanim, they're 80, 90 years old, but they're still lovey-dovey with their wife. They love their wives. They're excited about their wives just like they did 30, 40, 50, 70 years ago. Why? There's always a certain structure. There was always a certain time we're allowed, certain time we're not allowed. We didn't have too much, too much, too much. Eventually you don't want it. This is what happens in a secular world. In a secular world, you act at will. Whenever you feel like it, you do it. So naturally, in the beginning, you feel like it all the time. You don't want to stop feeling like it. But what happens? 2, 3, 4, 5 months later, not only you don't feel like it, you don't want to look at her. She doesn't want to look at you. All of a sudden, you hate each other. Well, you hate her. 6 months, you were fine. 5 months, you were fine. You guys never heard of these stories? These celebrities get married and get divorced the next day? We're not talking about 6 years later. A day wedding. I remember when I was young, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, whenever it was, some celebrity got married for 1 day. Singer, some famous singer, she got married for 1 day. 1 day. They got married, the next day they got divorced. Shlomo HaMelech says, I know. I was married to 1,000 wives. So now, and obviously Shlomo HaMelech was not married to 1,000 wives for the intimate part of it. He was married for 1,000 wives for the sake of bringing the Mashiach. He was trying to bring the Mashiach. But that's for another shiur. So, first and foremost, he's telling you, understand, there are certain laws, these are the foundations. If a woman is not willing to keep Shabbat, the Bet Din tells you, continue. Get her to do tshuva. She's not willing to keep kosher, continue. Get her to do tshuva. She's not willing to keep a lot of laws, all the other laws. Say, continue, keep going. But if he says, my woman is not willing to keep Taharat HaMishpaja, they said, you give you a get on the spot. Most bedins, they give you a get on the spot. Why? You can't live together. You can't give it what it says on the ketubah, and you are allowed to get divorced right on the spot. Why? You're not allowed to be in the same house. Because you're not allowed to touch her. And how many men are going to hold up to that test? Now, obviously, different rabbis know their students differently. So I know there's a very famous story about Rabbi Uri Zohar. Shichyeh, he's a huge Mizakeh Rabim, huge KIRUV rabbi in Israel, and he used to be pretty much the #1 movie star in Israel and producer. And they actually invited him to come to Hollywood and so on. He was very, very wealthy, very, very successful, but in the worst possible business in the world. One day he started doing tshuva, Baruch Hashem, and his wife was a scholar. Was a very, very established woman, very smart and intellectual. So she never found Judaism to be anything. She made fun of it. She didn't care for it. So in the beginning, he was just focusing on his own tshuva, but eventually he said, okay, listen, can you please go to the mikveh? She goes, go to the mikveh, ichsa. I'm not going to the mikveh. Why would I go to the, I'm going to the pool, I go to the beach, why would I go to the mikveh? She's not keeping anything. He's keeping Shabbat, he's keeping everything, she doesn't want to keep nothing. She goes to his rabbi, says, Rabbi, she doesn't want to keep Taharat HaMishpaja. I can't be with her. I'm sleeping on one floor of the house, she's sleeping on another floor of the house. I can't be with her. Because I know from next time I'm going to fail. And his rabbi knew him well, knew what he could stand. And he said, stay with her. She'll do tshuva eventually. He says, Rabbi, I tried. He goes, he's not interested. Stay with her. And again, this is based on a relationship between a rabbi and a student. Not in general, if the woman is not keeping Taharat HaMishpaja, the Bet Din will allow you to get divorced. And anyway, long story short, eventually the rabbi comes up with a brilliant idea. And he says, listen, try this last test. Try this last thing. Take one of the books of the Rambam and read it at the kitchen table. The kitchen table, read it. After you finish, don't put it back in the shelf. Leave it there. Every day, open it up a little bit, read something, make comments if you want, or not, read it, and put it back. That's it. Just leave it on the kitchen table all the time. Never remove it from the kitchen table. Rabbi says. Rabbi do. I do, right? So this is what he does. One day, he comes home, and his wife comes out, and she looks at him, and he says, today she looked at me differently. And I said, hi, how are you? And she goes, okay, I'll go to that mikveh. That mikveh you want me to go? I'll go. And Rabbi Uwe says, I didn't ask her why. I was so excited. I've been waiting for years. It wasn't like a few months. From what I remember, it's 5 years he waited. 5 years he waited for his wife to go to the mikveh. We wouldn't be able to 5 days. 5 years. This is the dargah of somebody. Somebody is very holy. Already early in his tshuva, he was very holy. To leave what he left and to become a kiruv rabbi, it's not something for everybody. And he's one of the biggest ones. Anyway, he says, I was so excited, I didn't bother or care about why. I saw something changed. She went to the mikveh, Baruch Hashem, and he says, today, she's much more religious than me. He's a kiruv rabbi. He makes people do tshuva, brings them from GEHINNOM to Gan Eden for years. Takes them out of GEHINNOM, puts them in Gan Eden. He says, my wife, bigger tzadikah, much more religious than me. I could say the same probably for all kiruv rabbis' wives. Why? Because in order for a wife to allow a husband to constantly travel every single day, go from place to place to place to place to place for free, takes a special woman. It takes a special tzadikah. It's not like you're bringing millions to the house. Hey, honey, I came home. He brings a wad of, stacks of cash. What does he come with? He gives stacks of problems. Hey, honey, this student has this one. This student has that one. This student has this one. So anyway, for years he didn't ask her. For years he didn't ask her. He says, one day I asked her. I had to ask her after years. Baruch Hashem, she's very religious. I asked her, what got you interested? What happened? She says, I saw that book you kept looking into every day. That Rambam book. And I always ask myself, what is he reading all the time? What is he reading? What is he so interested in that book? What's in that book that he's so interested? So one day you left, and I looked into the book that was in the kitchen. And I looked at it. She was a scholar. She wasn't like an average person. She was a scholar. She's a very, very intelligent person. Very big intellectual. She says, I read the book. She goes, oh, you like what it says? She goes, no. I didn't understand anything. I read a whole page. I did not, with all the levels of Hebrew that I have, and all the things that I know, and all the things that I learned, and all the things I didn't understand one word in the entire page, except that I knew that whatever he's writing, it's serious. Whatever this Rambam is writing, it's meaningful. It's serious. And if it's serious, I want to be a part of it. It's not a joke. It's not just an illusion. It's not just putting on black and white and wearing a beard. Whatever he's writing, it's serious. It's meaningful. I want to be a part of it.
Asked him, what can we do to protect ourselves from Chavrei Mashiach? He says, Torah and Gemilut Chasadim. Even if somebody does a nice thing or learns a lot or anything like that, it's never compared to bringing one of Hashem's lost kids that's been lost for the last 3,000 years back home. One of the beautiful things that we have in our organization is that we have both Torah and Zikuy Rabin, because we have our kollels, we have our avrechim, and we also have our kiruv that we do around the world. Our lectures reach every corner of the world, Baruch Hashem, in multiple languages, but of course, we always want to do even more.
תות היו רגלינו בשערייך ירושלים, המעמד הנשגב והמרומם של סיום הש"ס, זוהר והשולחן ערוך, שעל ידי ארגון בעזרת השם העולמי.
יכול להיות שעכשיו אנחנו נשמע את השופר של המשיח.
נמצא איתנו כאן האורח מפלורידה, יושב ראש הארגון מזכי הרבים, הרב ירון ראובן.
בעזרת השם כולנו נעשה ונצליח ונגדל בתורה ונזכה את הרבים ונעשה כבוד שמיים כמו שצריך.
אתם עמלי התורה, תמשיכו, תהיו אור גדול.
שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
הזדמנות שאני מברך את הרב ירון רeuven שהוא זקן הרבים ומחזיק תורה מעם ישראל בארץ וגם בתפוצות. אשרי המרשה חלקו, שימשיך עוד לעשות כאלה וכאלה. זכות גדולה מאוד שהוא מחזיק תורה בעם ישראל.
טוב שעשים נוספו הערב לעם ישראל לכבודה של תורה, להרמת קרנה של תורה, וכל הדברים הללו ברוך השם הודות לידידנו יושב ראש הארגון שעוד לא ידע את ההפתעה שתכננתי לו.
While we have KIRUV work that we've done throughout the whole year, we also have the Torah that we're constantly producing more and more of, and last but not least, the chesed to feed the poor people in Israel.
A very special thank you to all our amazing guests who show real Ahavat Israel by taking the time out of their busy schedule and sharing their ups and downs with us, all for the sake of Am Israel.
ארגון בעזרת השם הולך לחלק מאות סלי מזון בכל רחבי הארץ.
One of the big things that we have, aside from this campaign, you probably see this poster or something similar to it, is also we published some of the recent results that we have, or at least up to now, of the organization. And one of the reasons why we do this each year is because we want to make sure that our partners, our donors, our talmidim know where their money is going. Unlike everybody else that, says a lot, does a lot, we want to show you what these results are. I can tell you from my experience and a little bit of knowledge about the whole Torah world, I don't know of anybody else, any other organization on planet Earth that produces dollar for dollar what we've produced over these last few years. This is nothing to be arrogant about. It's simply siyata bishmaya. Kadosh Baruch Hu helped us. We made every sacrifice that we can possibly make in order to make it happen. Producing nearly 300 films, publishing 32 books, our own books, giving out 154,000 books for free. Giving out 154,000 books is not a cheap endeavor. Anyone that wants to do such a thing has to be completely committed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to his children, and most importantly, to have bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu and his Torah. We also have fed over 160,000 people over these last several years. Each year, during Pesach, the high holidays, throughout the year, we help a lot of people eat, help make sure that they have groceries, food, all types of things. And you guys have seen many of the videos that we've produced over the years to actually show you the people that are getting this food. You have here 160,000 people have eaten, nearly 300 Torah films. And then on top of all of it, we have 1.4 million USB, CDs, and cards that have been giving out for free. All of the work that we've done over the last 10 years on these USBs given out for free. Last but not least, 12,000 video and audio lectures available online in about 14 different languages for the world to watch for free.
הרב ירון רeuven, הרב אפרים כחלון, נשאר גבוה בעזרת השם, שאלו מעלה מעלה, גדל התמכה בהצלחה, זאת מוכרים מלא משאלות דיבה, בטובה ובברכה, בכל אשר יתנו, תשכילו ויצליחו, תזכרו לעשות כאלה וכאלה, תהיו תורה להגדרה בין והבין.
ארגון בעזרת השם לקח על עצמו את אחת המטרות הקשות ביותר בדור שלנו, לתקן עולם במלכות שדי. לא להסתפק במשהו אחד, לעזור רק לאנשים מסכנים, רק לאנשים ניצולי שואה, רק לאנשים שלא מכירים את אלוקים, רק לאנשים שאין להם כלום בבית, אלא לעזור לכלל ישראל בכל מכל כל. וברוך השם, חפץ השם בידינו הצליח. למעלה ממיליון יהודים ויהודיות נעזרו על ידי ארגון בעזרת השם. רק תדמיינו לכם איזה עוצמה היה לכל אחד ואחת מהשותפים שזכו להיות כל אחד כפי כוחו ויכולתו, לאיזה תוצאות הצליחו להגיע ולאיזה תוצאות עוד יצליחו.
פורים שמח על לראות את השלטים, נעלה עכשיו למעלה, תנועה קצת את האש, את הלימוד. ברוכים הבאים, אפשר לראות כאן כולם יושבים לומדים, איזה רעש של תורה, איזה רעש, איזה רעש. והנה יש פה עוד בית מדרש, וגם פה יש השם הכל עמוס. פורים שמח, פורים שמח.
הדמיון הזה הוא לא דמיון כל כך רחוק, כי כמו שהתורה אומרת, בפיך ובלבבך לעשותו, ככה גם בדבר הזה. כל מי שירצה, כל מי שרוצה או רוצה להיות שותפים איתנו, עם הארגון הקדוש והנפלא הזה, שכל כוונתו לשם שמיים, להגדיל תורה ולהאדירה, להרים קרן התורה, לעזור לכל אחד ואחד מעם ישראל, בכל העניינים, כל המישורים, מהילד הכי קטן שצריך מטרנה וטיטולים, עד האיש הכי מבוגר שלעולם לא הניח תפילין, ורגע לפני המוות דואגים להניח לו תפילין. אם גם אתם רוצים להיות שותפים בכאלה דברים גדולים בעשייה של תורה ועבודה וגמילות חסדים, ברוך השם, ארגון בעזרת השם כאן לצדכם, לשירותכם, יחד עם כלל ישראל.
כמעט 1.5 מיליון דיסקים, דיסקונקים שחילקנו, כל הדברים האלה בחינם, יותר מ-12,000 שיעורים. אז כל הדברים האלה, מתי שבן אדם רואה כמה ההשקעה שלו, אם זה בבתים, מניות, בכל מיני דברים, והוא רואה שהמניה עלתה 10% במקום אחד ו1,000% במקום שני, אז הוא מבין איפה להשקיע פעם הבאה. ואותו דבר פה, יש הרבה אנשים שברוך השם צופים את השיעורים שלנו, שיעורים של הרב אפרים, שיעורים של הרב שרבית ושאר הרבנים בארגון, ועכשיו זה הזמן להיות שותפים בדבר הגדול שאנחנו עושים ברוך השם.
After somebody dies, their neshama naturally feels like it needs to be clean and like it needs to go to GEHINNOM to go and clean itself so it could feel better after.
And one of the reasons why we do this, why we show these numbers, is because we want to show everyone what we've done to give you an indication of what we can do in the future. So this is the time where we need as much of your help as possible to push yourself more than you typically do. If you typically donate a couple $100, donate 1,000. If you could afford the 8,000, 15,000, 50,000, whatever you could afford, this is the time to do it, because this is going to be the help that we have to help all of these avachim, to feed these people, and perhaps B'ezrat Hashem one day to get that building that we've been wanting to build here in the United States, to build a community. But all of these things require millions of dollars. If not now, then when?